Thank you, Ambassador, for finding time just before you go to Latvia. And let me start with a question that probably bothers every Latvian. We have seen two Russian fighter jets in Estonia spending there 12 minutes. We have seen drones in NATO airspace. The question is, what else has to happen for the NATO to fight back?
Well, so I think actually I would completely turn that question upside down. And what I would say is every single time we've had an air incursion or any kind of threat, the NATO alliance has acted strongly. For example, drones incurred in Poland, we shot them down, made sure that they weren't a threat to the Polish people or the alliance. The fighter jets going through Estonian airspace, they were escorted the entire way, making sure that they were no threat to the NATO alliance. Now, and we also sent a strong message through diplomatic channels. And so I think every single time this happens, we demonstrate strength. Now, what's going to demand more of our time and attention is making sure that our commitments we made this summer in the Hague defense commitment, that we follow through on that. And countries like Latvia that are already spending a lot on their own defense and therefore the collective defense, according to Article 3 of the Washington Treaty, those are model allies. And that's why this is the second trip I've made to Riga in the last 6 months since I came here in April. But we need to make sure that all allies are following through on that commitment and are all strong.
But in one of the previous interviews, you have said that every single time when there's been a Russian excursion in NATO airspace, NATO has passed the test with A+.
Yeah.
So do you think that downing cheap Russian drones with fighter jets, it's A+?
I do, because I mean, right now, that's what those are the assets that we have to address the drone threats. We have F-35s, we have F-16s, and we have missiles that are air-to-air defense. But at the same time, this is what's great about NATO and having all 32 allies on the same page, which we are now, is we are developing better air defenses. We're taking the learning from Ukraine as to how to use less expensive counter-drone measures. And we're also obviously working together with the EU on this, on the Eastern Line of Defense, or what they've called as a drone wall. And so I think, right now, we responded, we saw the drones, we shot them down. Long term, we'll be better at sort of identifying the right assets against the right air threats, but at the same time, the fact that we were already responding, can scramble jets, can address it, or have a complete air domain knowledge and awareness, I think is for sure an A+. And again, it's where the alliance is now, but we have, we're continuing to get better, and that's what's really exciting about what we're doing here in Brussels.
I just wonder, flying F-16, which costs millions of dollars, to down a cheap plastic drone, that's not sustainable, right?
It's not sustainable, but that's right now, that's what we had available to us. And, our counter UAV is going to get better. It's something that we're meeting every single day, working on every single day. And like I said, we're pulling the knowledge and information from, our friends in Ukraine, making sure we understand how they're addressing these threats. And we're going to get better. But I think the fact that we were, again, able to identify it, able to engage these drones, able to shoot them down. Same thing with the Russian fighter jets. Certainly a bigger threat than unarmed drones. But we also, use the assets we have. And the fact that we have countries participating in Estonia, that we're not the Estonian Air Force, but we're there as allies, and we're able to scramble and escort. I think that's a huge win too. So I'm optimistic that I know where we are today, I know where we're going, and we're going to continue to be the strongest alliance that is for 76 years stood the test of time, and will continue to.
So if there's next week, for instance, there will be drones again flying in Latvia and Baltics, they will be shut down without the fighter jets, but using some more kind of sustainable technology?
So, I don't enter into hypotheticals. That I think if drones are flying in to Estonia or Latvia or Lithuania or anywhere on the eastern flank, a lot of it is the circumstances and what does that mean? And this is what we need to make sure that we immediately identify, intentionality, although that doesn't kind of answer all the questions. I think, whether drones are intentionally flown into Latvian airspace, that's much different than unintentional that are hit by electronic warfare. And so we're going to have to take all the facts and circumstances, but just know, we're not just going to respond. I mean, we're not just reactive. We're going to continue to do things that strengthen the alliance and to make sure that we go unchallenged, because our strength is from that investment that I mentioned coming out of The Hague.
In Latvia, we sometimes wonder if the NATO fifth paragraph, it's just on the paper, or will it really work? Because there has been, of course, different discussions and debates that it's only for those countries who pay enough.
Yeah, I don't think any of that is on the paper. Obviously, we all take the solemn agreement that we made to the entire treaty, including Article 5, and Latvia. I mean, even though there is no exception for countries that only spend 5% or what we agreed to in The Hague, all allies should know that the entire alliance will meet according to what we did after 9/11, if an Article 5 is necessary to invoke. But again, if we all do what we have agreed to do, and that is invest in our own individual defense, which again Latvia is doing very well. In fact, all Baltic nations, Estonia, Lithuania, as well. If we all invest, then we're not going to have to worry about an Article 5, because nobody is going to test our resolve and our strength. And we're on that path to being incredibly strong. But it's also completely related. And the thing that I would impress upon folks in Latvia, folks in Germany, and folks across the alliance is we need to make sure our economies are strong as well. We need to make sure that people go about peaceful lives, contributing, being productive, raising families, and continuing to advance kind of our way of life. The whole reason that we came together as 32 allies was to protect our freedoms and our way of life. And so we need to make sure that our economies are strong, our families are strong, our institutions are strong, because that also contributes to the collective strength of the alliance.
But how do you assess NATO's readiness to respond quickly to crisis on its eastern border, both politically and militarily, before we have reached those 5% that it was agreed in the NATO summit?
I think we're ready today. I mean, again,
even before those 5% are reached.
Well, I mean, again, we're all making progress. We've all agreed to make year-over-year progress. I have visited, German tank battalions in Lithuania. I've visited American artillery companies in Latvia, right? And I also visited a lot of our troops and other countries' troops in Estonia. I mean, we are preparing to create and we have prepared to create a strong defense, and we're continuing to invest more. We're going to continue to put more work into it. It's a never-ending process to continue to increase our strength, increase our borders, increase, quite frankly, our civil resilience and our critical infrastructure and protecting that. And I know the Baltic nations are equally leaders in those areas of just making sure that their systems and their internet and their satellite communications and all of the infrastructure that's necessary to maintain society and to make sure people feel safe, as well as being safe, are invested in and protected.
It's not a secret that Europeans are waiting for the United States to launch stronger sanctions towards Russia that have been prepared in Congress by Senator Lindsey Graham, that have been promised also by your president. The question is, when will that happen?
Well, we're waiting. Really, it's pretty simple. We want to move in concert with our European allies. I think we believe, and President Trump believes, and he said it, that he thinks if we work together, if we all move at the same time, that they'll have much greater effect. So we just can't wait for the United States to unilaterally do things. We need to make sure that all of our allies, the European Union as well, are moving in concert, because that is what's going to make the most effective sanctions possible.
So you are saying you're waiting for Europeans to do their part?
Well, we're not waiting. We're having conversations to find out the timing and when we're all going to move at the same time. So I mean, there's interactivity to make sure that we all move at the same time and enter into those sanctions, and that those sanctions apply to the same assets and Russian commercial activities.
But those really tough sanctions that also your president was talking about, when they will become a reality, what is your take?
You know, my sense is, one, once the EU agrees to move with us, and I think the second thing that's pretty obvious is once President Trump determines that Vladimir Putin has absolutely no interest in peace. And I think, there are still some indications that a peace deal might be possible. But at the same time, President Trump continues to create incrementally the environment to bring Vladimir Putin to the table. He's proven to be unwilling to meet one-on-one with Zelensky. I think that's concerning. And so there's just, again, President Trump, as I've said many times, and especially if you've watched some of my other statements, President Trump holds the cards, and he will play them as he feels is appropriate and necessary to bring peace. He's a peacemaker. He's made several peace deals in his first 6 or 7 months in office, and he'll continue to work very hard in that regard.
One of the preconditions for the sanctions, as I understand, is also that allies stop buying Russian oil, which makes sense. But how can we convince, for instance, Turkey to stop buying Russian oil, which is the third biggest oil buyer from Russia? Yeah,
we're having bilateral conversations with the Turks, with the Slovaks, with the Hungarians, to not only, impress upon them how important this is, that they stop buying Russian oil and stop funding Putin's war in Ukraine, but at the same time, we're also having conversations about how we can help, how we as an alliance, how the EU and others can help transition our European allies, because other countries have done it. Latvia has done it. Poland has done it. And many other countries have done it. And so for a couple countries, especially landlocked countries, it's not easy, but there is a path. And again, the United States, doesn't just want to wield a big stick. We also want to be a great ally and friend and help folks in countries that, have found themselves with too much Russian oil dependency, transition from that. We have a lot of both natural gas and oil to sell to our allies. And so we're looking for opportunities to bring that to bear as well.
Can we expect the peace talks starting this year?
I think the peace talks are ongoing. The bottom line is that it's going to take, as J.D. Vance recently says, it takes two to tango. We're going to have both the Ukrainians and the Russians come to the table and be willing to make a deal.
But Russians don't want to tango.
Well, then we're going to continue to fight. I mean, then the war is going to continue. I mean, this is the thing is that Vladimir Putin gets to decide ultimately if the deal that is being offered and the deal that the Ukrainians are willing to make is a deal he'll take. And if not, then we need to continue to do the things we're doing. It's why we have the prioritized Ukraine requirements list, and we're making sure that Europe is paying for the defense of Ukraine, make sure that they can defend themselves, to make sure that they can bring air defense and protect their cities and critical infrastructure, make sure that they have artillery shells, and make sure they have the necessary equipment. Right now, only the United States has that available for sale, and the Europeans are stepping up and buying it. And so we're going to continue to do that. And, that should be able to sustain the fight in Ukraine for, months, if not years to come. And I think it's really probably could sustain it indefinitely based on everything I know.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
And have a nice trip.